So you send this email to the entire United States burn organization.
I was the national director for USA.
And a lot of them are from 15 years ago, 12 years ago, 10 years ago. A few of them I've only met one time.
Mike Bickle runs his organization as mission over people. Actually, this is exactly the way that our organization is run. He exaggerates pretty much every time he gets online. He lies extensively. So when I last counted, I had personally talked to 42 people. And I just started to have this growing feeling like, okay, it's time for me to actually go to Sean.
Wake up and win. Wake up and win. Wake up and win. Wake up.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Wake Up and Win podcast. Tonight, we're your host, Blaise.
And Christina.
Great to see all of you and hope everyone out there is doing well. Tonight, we are tackling a pretty big subject. The Sean Feucht allegations, Burn 24/7, which bleeds into, of course, Let Us Worship and everything going on with that current ministry. But there's a website out there, Truth and Freedom Stories, and that website has been getting a lot of traction, and there's stories from abuse survivors, spiritual abuse survivors of allegedly of Sean Feucht and the ministry Burn 24/7. And this has come out, and one of the people that spearheaded this is a young lady named Christina. Always gets so annoyed when I call people young lady.
I don't get annoyed. I just say sometimes people, I mean, I know that it's also a compliment.
It's a
but also
Southern
some people
thing. It's just
find
a
it
Southern
condescending
thing.
if you're acting like they're.
But
it's fine.
I'm going to say a young lady named Christy Gafford, who has really spearheaded this project and really been a voice for so many of the people within Burn 24/7. And she put out her video like 8 months ago. We got wind of it. We had a lot of other things going on, but we got wind of it. We directed some people toward the video, but she's really come out along with Jesse Westwood and Peter, and I think Amanda's her name, and then Richie Booth and some others that have come forward in a forward-facing way, telling their stories, and apparently there's more stories, and this is kind of heavy. And so for those out there that are kind of hesitant to hear this because you really like Sean Feucht, you really like the ministry of Sean Feucht, Let Us Worship, and what he did and during COVID and all those things. What I'm going to say to you is this: just have an open ear and open heart to these people and their stories. These are not woke left activists like Sean would want you to think.
When you have embittered, angry, upset former volunteers, these are not staff people. These are not people that were hired. These are volunteers that we had to dismiss because of moral issues.
Christy was fired because she spoke up and she tried to confront Sean. She was fired, so that's a lie right there, okay?
To dismiss them, we had to release them, and a lot of them are from 15 years ago, 12 years ago, 10 years ago. A few of them I've only met one time, and a lot of them were prior in the Burn movement.
So putting distance from them, never really knew them, never really met them. Not true about Christy. She ran 3 of your burn regions, and she was your communications director.
Nor are they just random volunteers that are disgruntled. These are some pretty heavy hitters within the Burn 24/7, which was the prayer movement that Sean started years ago, and people that were real staff members. These are not just random volunteers that were there just for one day and then gone. So tonight we're going to welcome the former communications director of the Burn 24/7 that was run by Sean Feucht, Christy Gafford. Welcome to the show, Christy.
Hey, Christy.
Hi, you guys. And I don't mind if you call me young, even though I am not.
No, it's just an ongoing running joke with us because every time I say young lady or young man, Christina's like, they're probably your same exact age or older than you. So anyway, it's great to have you on the show. And I know that this has been a lot to carry for the last, few months of going through this, but if you'll just give us an introduction to who you are and your position and your role at the Burn, when you got involved with Sean Feucht, and even what the Burn is a little bit, that would be great.
Okay, sure. My name is Christy. I was actually a part of the Burn for 8 years, Burn 24/7, which was founded by Sean Feucht, as we know, and we're talking about tonight. The Burn is actually what he would consider, what all of us would consider, the prayer and worship arm of his different ministries that he has founded. And it kind of was birthed out of a grassroots type of if you want to call it a movement, you can, but a group of people that got together in a dorm room, and then it kind of exploded, and then Sean just began to take it, and other people that were running with him took it to the nation and then into the nations. And the Burn is actually, as an organization, it's an established organization, a nonprofit 501c3. And it has looked different over the years since it was officially founded. I believe it was officially started in 2007. At least that's to my knowledge. And local communities gather together. It was originally supposed to be once a month for extended hours of worship and prayer. And like whenever I started in the Burn, I was the local director of Burn Corsicana, which is where I live. And we would do extended hours, 24 hours. Every year we would do 77 hours for like multiple years, where we just did continuous worship and prayer. And it looks like gathering the community of people to just worship and to pray and honor Jesus. And it can be a very beautiful thing. And actually our community still does it. It's a little bit challenging now, especially since I was fired from my position. It's a little challenging to call it a burn, but we still do. And because really, when people come together to worship, it's not supposed to be about a man. It's not supposed to be about an organization. It's supposed to be about him. And really the heartbeat and the DNA of the Burn actually is that.
Gotcha. So, and I remember the Burn pretty well because I was a part of Burn 24/7 in Tyler, Texas for a short time, for like a year. And that was in 2007, 2008. And I loved it. I mean, it was such a cool experience. Nobody was a part of necessarily like houses of prayer or anything at that time. At least it was just random people from different churches. They came together for 24 hours and everybody would take a 2-hour set and pray. I mean, it was so cool. Okay. So talk to us about your story first, because I know you're carrying a lot of people's stories, and some people have given you permission to share or hint at certain stories, and we want you to do that as we're going. But really, we want to hear your story, how things kind of unfolded with you, with Sean and being fired from the Burn.
Yeah. So my story, whenever you start talking about abuse, spiritual abuse, all of that kind of thing, I didn't even have that language until within the last year. And I think a lot of us have had to learn that language, like in the body, just with all of the scandals that have happened with the exposures of various leaders in our movement, especially in the charismatic movement. I was heavily influenced. I was actually raised Baptist. It's like straight, independent, fundamental Baptist girl, like legit, hellfire and brimstone, like all of that. And whenever I was a teenager, our community in the same city that I still live in, we had a supernatural encounter with the Lord, and it sparked a 3-week revival. So I didn't really have a grid growing up for the charismatic world until it happened in a backyard with us, a group of teenagers. And that just changed me. I mean, I knew who the Lord was. I knew I was very grounded in my beliefs, but discovering the Spirit in that way was something that changed me. And later on, after my husband and I got married, we got married pretty young, and 20 and 21, we were just babies. And my mom took me to, on 7707, the call, which is Lou Engle, It was all of those guys, and it just really marked me for prayer and worship. And so I was really, and that was where I first discovered IHOP Kansas City. I didn't know any of those people. I just knew the Lord, and I knew His presence, and I was like, I want to do something like that in my city. And so I was very heavily influenced by IHOP Kansas City.
So, okay, yeah, go from there. So you were really impacted by the prayer movement, by IHOP Kansas City. You saw Mike Bickle, and that story kind of hit the fan. Like, what was your initial reaction? What happened to you? And then how did you like deal with that being a part of, because I mean, that was something I was wondering with Sean when I saw this happen. It took a long time for Sean to ever say anything. And I knew Sean was in pictures with Mike. He was on video with Mike. Like, I knew that he was impacted by Mike greatly. So talk to us about the impact of that on you when you saw what happened with Mike, and how you, because I know you eventually reached out to Sean about it. So talk to us about that.
Yeah, because I was so heavily impacted and influenced by IHOP, our local furnace, even becoming a part of the burn, was never about Sean. It was always about what I felt like the Lord had put in my heart for our community. And the burn was really just, whenever I discovered the burn, I went to a worship school for 2 weeks, and it was the community of people that were doing the same thing across the nation in their own cities. And so there was this community that, and the leaders were impactful. There was a lot of impact. But IHOP Kansas City had been so much a part of my growth for so many years, since 2007. And so I started to be a part of the burn in 2016. And then I started as a local leader. I started to help with our region. I was part of our regional team with Liam Bernhard, who is also a part of the whistleblower group. He was the named regional director, and we just had community among, and that was something that was really important to me, was community and relationships.
When you say regional director, how many regional directors were there in the burn, like as of say last year when all this started to unfold?
So the regional directors, or the regions, were separated by region of the map of the United States. And it varied over the years. Like, when the burn was really, really growing in America, there was like 6 or 7 different regions. There's a lot.
So so that's helpful, because so it's not like there's like 50 regional directors. It's like a select group of people.
Right.
Like, so Liam, who's a whistleblower, he's not some random guy. He's like one of maybe 10 regional directors that were under Sean, or maybe Sean has one other person that directs them or something.
Right.
Am I right to say that?
Yeah, sure. And I can give you a little bit more of a structural thing, because I was actually part of trying to redevelop the regions whenever I became the national director and the communications director. That was a part of what I did, was to reestablish the regions and the regional directors, because we had so much turnover. We had so many people that had left from, I would say, probably starting around 2018 and into 2020, there was a very large group of turnover. And that had kind of been the case. And I had asked those questions early on. Like, when you're starting to be a part of something, at least for me, I wanted to know, like, why are these people no longer here? Or, and I would always get kind of vague answers. But, like I said, I was very focused on, what are we doing? What are we called to? What's Jesus doing? That was really kind of more my focus. Moving into those regional leadership roles, you do ask those questions, but from the top, we would have what they called the global team. So those were your board of directors, and during my time, one of the board of directors was actually a mentor of mine when I first started. But then they left, and Liam stepped into the regional director role. And so we even had a turnover of board members during the time that I was a part of the burn. So structurally, the top is the board, and Sean is a part, and he's the founder and a board member. And then during my time as the national director and the communications director, which was for me, it was 22 to 24, 2022 to 2024. It was Adam Miller, Caleb Kling, and Jamie Dixon, and Sean Feucht. So they were the global board. So they were overseeing everybody. There were burns in Colombia, there were burns in India, there were burns in the UK, and they all had there's burns in Canada. So they all had a national, quote unquote, a national director.
Gotcha.
And then you would go to your regional directors if there was enough burns in the nation in order to be able to have community and have somebody on the ground. They would call it boots on the ground kind of system, so that you have somebody to directly go to.
So it's helpful because I think, if you've been following the story, if anybody's been following the story, you'll realize Sean came out with a video last week. Jesse Westwood did a great job of kind of recapping that video. But in essence, Sean just said the people that are saying anything are all former volunteers that are disgruntled, and they had to be fired for moral issues, which was such a strange thing. And he said some of them I've only met one time ever.
And a lot of them are from 15 years ago, 12 years ago, 10 years ago. A few of them I've only met one time.
So it's really strange to know that you were the national director of communications, I guess, at the burn. I mean, you were not just some random person. And then, of course, we know that one of these people that's a whistleblower, who'll be speaking out even further over time, was literally one of his accountants, one of Sean's accountants that has access to bank accounts. That was probably the biggest red flag for me. I mean, all that you guys have posted has been red flags, but when I saw the way he responded, I went, shoot, he is literally just lying to our faces right now. How else can how else, you know what I mean? How do I even, it's just a straight up lie. Or else if you just wanted to be really generous, you'd be like, well, maybe he hasn't read the website. Maybe he's not paying attention to anything. He's just out here spouting off his thoughts about stuff. I mean, what were your thoughts, babe, when you saw him heard that he was just calling people that stuff?
Well, same thing right away. Just we had, talked to you, and obviously you have emails back and forth with him. He knows exactly who you are. Your email signature has your title on there. So it was just very clear he was lying about it.
It's fun times, right? We got the kiddos, and but Christina's going to step away and just make sure he's taken care of for a few minutes. But okay, so take us to the moment where you're seeing the Mike Bickle scandal break out. It's obviously touching the prayer movement at a pretty high level, which of course goes into the burn. And I'm sure the burn community is talking about all this, looking at it going, wait, how do we respond to this? And so then Sean has a call, a national call or something, right, with the burn. And he says some things on that call. The next day, you are feeling like that was not how we want to communicate. So it didn't settle with you, but you also had reached out to Sean prior to that call and just to tell him your concerns. So can you walk us through that process and some of that email chain? You don't have to pull up the emails. I'll screen share some of the emails whenever I edit it in, but go ahead and just share your story there.
Sure. Well, I do want to just kind of go back just a little bit. The IHOP stuff's hit me really hard, as I said before. And I spent, actually, one of my closest friends, Amanda, and I spent some time with some leaders with Cindy Jacobs, Lou Engle. They did a conference in February. And during that conference, they spent probably half of the day, I don't even think it was even on camera. And that they really started on the stage, started to address from a leadership standpoint, the Mike Bickle stuff. And then we spent hours just repenting for it as a community within that conference. And that really impacted me because it was the first time, because I have been watching this stuff. I didn't really want to deal with it in my own heart yet, but I've been watching it. But it was the first time that I actually saw with my own eyes leaders that we value in the prayer and worship movement that actually talked about abuse, that talked about abuse in the church, that talked about different things like racism and you know, like really hard topics. And then our response was repentance, and that it really deeply impacted me. And then it wasn't long after that I think I watched you guys' interview with Tammy Woods and with Tammy Woods and Elizabeth Herder. And there was just this moment of watching them and watching those leaders repent, and then watching Tammy Woods and Elizabeth Herder. And there was two statements that were made in those interviews. Was the first one was Mike Bickle doesn't have friends. He has opportunities and he has victims. And then the other statement was Mike Bickle runs his organization as mission over people. And it was just something that just came over me. Like, I don't really even know how to describe it, because I don't even want to say it was this aha moment for me. It was just almost this like gut punch where you just go, actually, this is exactly the way that our organization is run. It is always about the next biggest, most epic thing. It's always about the mission. And here I am as a leader in this organization going, how do we serve the people? And up until this point, my leaders haven't gotten on a stage and repented. And I literally just was a part of that. And it just came over me and it wrecked me. I don't have a better word for it. It wrecked me.
Yeah.
And to this day, I go back to that moment and I called my closest and my best and talked to my mentor, and we wept, we cried, we prayed. And then that was when I knew that I had to, like, you can't unknow what you know? So if I even said that the right way.
Yeah, no, for sure. You said it so well, and you're doing such a great job. I just want to encourage you. You're doing such a great job of communicating this process for you, because to go from 2016 being involved in the burn to becoming like the national communications director and becoming a pretty important piece in the process and so maybe for Sean, he might be like, oh, well, and this is kind of the impression I get. Oh, well, these people were nobodies is kind of Sean's take, it seems. But it's very clear to me that you were very important to many of the actual people within the burn organization. You had people coming to you all the time about things, because it seems that, like you said, you were convicted by the reality that when you listen to Tammy Woods, when you listen to Elizabeth Herder, and this is just the reality for mid-level leaders. I've been mid-level leader in ministries before, where you're just kind of like there, and you're like, you got a big leader up here, you got a decent leader right here, and then maybe there's you and like a bunch of others, and you're like, well, we just kind of do what they say. And suddenly you realize, like, well, wait, do I agree with what's being said? And then when you see something crumble next to you, like for you looking at IHOP, it totally crumbles, and you're like, wait, now they're saying that their visionary leader, who was an absolute abuser, ran his organization in the same way that I'm watching our organization be run. Maybe we need to push pause. And so that is the thing that struck you. So what did you do when that happened? What was your first move?
To get on my face and pray.
Right.
That was literally, I called my closest and my best. I called the people that I'm accountable to, because within our movement, there is a lot of trust that I had in my direct leader, Adam. But he wasn't my first person that I went to. I went to those who actually know me, who actually I trust them to call me out whenever I'm wrong. And we just began to pray together, and there was a lot of tears. And it's just because I have been so invested in this world for so long, and because I deeply care about the people that are part of it, and I deeply care about the people that have come to me. I have tried to have those conversations about things being out of order, about neglect. I mean, there's so much neglect. I mean, I could spend a whole hour talking about the things that I was working to clean up. I mean, there was so much neglect in there. Sean was running around doing so many other things. He was never present. There was always this rah rally kind of thing, and you guys got to be doing this and you guys got to be doing that. But he was never present for any kind of the organizational order of things. And that was something that I really, really had a hard time with. And I said something a lot of times. But this moment for me was like the gravity hits you on a whole nother level.
This episode is brought to you by Wake Up and Win Life Insurance. If you're looking for a life insurance quote, I've got 25 different life insurance carriers, all A-rated carriers. People have asked me like, so you have your own agency? Well, I'm an independent broker. I used to run an agency with other agents, but now I'm just an independent broker. And I just help people with any life insurance companies out there that they can qualify for. And we helped somebody the other day that was getting hung up in certain life insurance companies, couldn't get approved, and then boom, got them approved immediately. So I've got all kinds of options, whether it's term life, whole life, index universal life, infinite banking concepts, even annuities if you're just trying to protect a lump sum of your 401k that's just sitting there after you've already retired. I can help you do rollovers and things like that. So if you're looking for a consultation, book below, and I'm happy to have that convo with you.
And that's where I was like, okay, like you said, let's pause and what do we do? So we started just praying about it, and then I was like, I have to go to them, and we have to start having these hard conversations. Like, where is the accountability? Where is the transparency? At the same time that all this was going on with me, there was also some things that were going on with a whole other nation, which is the UK. And we were told that the UK was leaving or departing from the global burn as being a part and as an entity. So that's what we were told. Mm-hmm. And so all of this was kind of going on at the same time. And so I decided, okay, we're going to have a conversation. I went to Adam first. My conversation, Adam, and I'm sorry, you can go ahead.
Yeah. Well, for context for everybody. So Sean leads the burn, which is one entity. Sean leads Let Us Worship, and that was his main thing from 2020 to now. He's just heavily focused on that, hitting the state capitals, all the stuff that he does, that he really became famous for. But the burn is and then there's Light the Candle, which is the overseas stuff. So you got multiple different entities, but the burn is the longest standing one that has probably the most members and active people that are all over the country as well as other countries. Adam is his kind of right-hand man, the pastoral role for and I can understand that to his credit. There are many type A high energy personalities that run these types of organizations or ministries or CEOs, all different, and they will often get people that are more like grounded or pastoral to help them run organizations. So just so people can see, this guy, Adam, was his right-hand man in that sense within the burn to be the more pastoral role. Right. So your first move was to go to Adam, right, about this stuff? Talk to us about that. How did that go?
So my first step to go was to go to Adam, and mostly because I really trusted Adam. Adam was the one who I had developed a relationship with. When I decided to step into the role that I took, I met with Adam and Sean and my husband as well, and we all met together. And Sean made it very clear at that time that he didn't have time to be a part of any kind of part of our leadership structure.
With the
So
burn.
with the burn, because he was doing Let Us Worship. Now, I will say this, whenever it came time for Kingdom to the Capitol, he came back to the burn, to me and to other leaders, to help support the Kingdom to the Capitol tour, and asked me for my help with that.
What year was that?
It started in 2023. So it was a 2-year Capitol tour. And this was where Turning Point became a part of it. And they went to every state capitol for a course of over 2 years to worship at the Capitol, and did what you see as Let Us Worship, but it was very pointed to be done in all of the capital cities.
And Turning Point USA was a part of that. Did they sponsor that, or like
Yes.
paid and sponsored by type of thing, or?
So I only limited communicated with the Turning Point USA. I don't know firsthand the agreement that was made. I did hear stories about the agreement that yes, that they were paying and covering the like I'll give you an example for the bus. Like they paid all the gas for the bus and the insurance, and they paid for that sort of thing. Like there is a story out there that the bus had gotten into an accident, and Sean was actually fundraising for the repairs of the bus, but it actually was covered from the insurance, and so the fundraising was actually not for the bus. It had already been previously paid for. So
Gotcha. Interesting.
So that is so Turning Point USA was actually very much a part of it. On our side of it, we were asked, from the burn side of it, we were asked to rally the burn communities in these capital cities so that they could go support the Let Us Worship event that was going on. It was very chaotic, and it was not organized at all. There were times that I tried to help from my side of it to, support the burn communities that were showing up. There was one time I even asked for like a tent that had burn on it that we could let people use to set up, their worship and instruments and all this stuff. And I was shot down and just told, don't ask for money. Don't, the burn doesn't have, or not the burn doesn't have any money. Sean's team is so ragged and run that they, if y'all are going to do anything as the burn, then y'all need to figure it out on your own. So that was essentially what I was told. It was done in a nice way. Adam was very good at, he was very good at keeping my trust with him. And I didn't have a reason at that point to say, I got irritated by stuff they would do, but I didn't have a reason at that point for me to go, well, Adam's just trying to throw me under the bus here, So, we had spent enough time together over the course of a couple of years on calls and planning and just doing a lot of things that I didn't have any reason not to
so
just say,
you
okay.
were working specifically with Adam very consistently. And were you sometimes on calls, like Zoom calls with Sean too, or is it mainly like just Adam, or would Sean come into these like a couple times a year or something to basically when he needed something from the burn, he'd be like, hey, I need all of you to come out to Kingdom Capitol tour. Hey, I don't have time to do burn stuff, but I'm doing Kingdom Capitol. I need burn to come support. Kind of get bodies in the seats type of thing. Like, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's exactly how it was.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go. Let's keep moving this forward to the moment that you reach out to Adam, because we've got an email chain, and I know that you wanted, like, after you had felt that conviction from being at that conference and realizing the prayer movement was addressing this issue within the prayer movement, you wrote an email to. Did you write it to Sean, or did you write it to Adam, or what happened there?
Well, I talked to Adam on the phone. We talked for a good hour and a half. I did not give him specific examples of my concerns. At this point, I've been told enough things that I wasn't using the word abuse, Blaise. And like I said, this is all language that I feel like we've all had to grow into. But I was using like words like mistreating of people. There is, and I have firsthand people that are part of Sean's teams coming to me and saying how he was horrible to them. And just past experiences, people that had left, that had shared just fragments of their stories. And I just started to realize, this culmination, that this actually needs to be addressed, and that we actually need to start talking about this. We actually need to start repenting for some of this stuff that maybe would have gone on years before. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of the vein that I was in. And so,
but you weren't telling Adam, were you telling Adam over the phone, like, hey, so I've got people coming to me about Sean and his treatment of them at the Let Us Worship events or behind the scenes. And like, because here's the thing and I know this happens in this conversation, there will be people that go, okay, these are just petty differences. This is just people that have like, a little bit of kind of church hurt feeling, and can we just move on? But can you give me an estimation just for you? Not if I go to Jesse Westwood, I know he's had people to reach out to him. If I went to Peter and his wife, they probably have people. But how many stories do you hold from the last 2 years of working in communications director? Would you say it's 5 stories? Would you say it's 10 stories? Would you say it's 20 stories, like, of people that were directly affected in either a way of mistreatment or what we'd call spiritual abuse through manipulation or gaslighting from Sean? Like, how many stories do you think you hold?
So when I last counted, which has been several months ago, actually probably 6 months ago, I had personally talked to 42 people.
What?
And when that's what makes this really hard, is because it wasn't until after that I spoke out and I said, we're not going to talk about, I'm not going to be silent in this, that we have to talk about this stuff. That's whenever it kind of even started even more people came to me. And I don't want to be inaccurate in the amount of people that have come to me, and we're talking various degrees.
Of course, yeah.
And it would just be a one sentence of this is what happened to me, but to the degree that it has come, it is so severe, and it's so hard because it's continuing to happen.
So just for the viewers that are having a hard time swallowing this, because of, like, our channel has a mix of different types of viewers and viewpoints, whether it be political or theological, we kind of get a whole mix, and we're not afraid to cover topics from people that are, on this side of the theological issue or this side of the theological issue. So I'm saying all that to say, I know there's people that for years have gone, yeah, we've been noticing Sean was a wolf for years. People will say that, right? And then there will be others that'll be like, no, I love Sean. He's not the guy. He's not the guy to come after right now. We've got people that have told us or commented at us on X, like, even before we even touched the story, they were like, hey, just so you know, y'all should not cover this story because this is not the guy. Like, he's doing good work, and et cetera, et cetera. So I have no qualms with his work personally. Just me personally, when I look at the work, I don't actually have huge issues with it. However, I do and have always noticed for the last year and a half that in regards to biblical accountability, Sean spends most of his time calling out the world in direct opposition to 1 Corinthians chapter 5, and zero time calling out the church for the abusive actions within the church. And so I do see that as a problem, and I noticed that initially, and that's what got my attention to say, I'm going to pay attention. For the last 18 months, I have been paying attention, and we've done a couple videos about that topic on Sean. But here we are now, 42 some odd stories, various degrees. And if you're just a little bit educated on spiritual abuse, you guys will understand it's not church hurt. Okay. We're not talking about just like, oh, somebody didn't get the worship leader position or somebody, but there's many stories of paychecks that should have been given that were not given. When a man is owning 9 houses or 10 houses, like 10 houses, like some of them are parsonages, and there's people not getting paid. But the problem is, Christy, people will go, well, yeah, this is prayer movement work. We all know that we're volunteers in this. Wait, that is not how this works. You don't have a bunch of volunteers while one guy becomes a multimillionaire. That's not how this works. So let's run this back to your communication to Sean and Adam, and knowing that there were at least 42 different people that had come to you over a period of time, that you were carrying their stories of what we would see as spiritual manipulation, spiritual abuse, heavy-handed leadership, and just using people, it sounds like. Would that be using people to kind of grow his vision and then discarding them when they're burned out? Like we watched, Cassandra shared her story, and I mean, that was heartbreaking. Like all of this time that in the merch, like working the merch, like it was her own baby, caring for it and carrying that, and then basically being paid minimal and not even being paid for the hours that she was being asked to work and agreed upon. So seeing that type of treatment and then just disregard her when she's kind of done, it's like, how many stories are like that within this whole thing? So talk to us about when you finally came and sent the email, and what was the response to the email and all that.
So I had mentioned earlier that at the same time, part of my conversation with Adam really had also to do with the UK's decision to depart from the organization as an entity. And so whenever I questioned Adam about that, he gave me a very vague answer that was, well, they need to be a charity. They need to be their own, they need to have their own financial structure, which was odd for me because I knew that they had had their own financial structure for a very long time. Actually, the UK ran their side of the organization very much like the rest of us should have been. We should have been running it the way that they did. And so I thought that was odd that he would say that. And then he also said something about, well, it was just like because of Sean's political run with the film with COVID and, political differences and that sort of thing was another reason they decided to leave, to depart. And the UK actually did such a phenomenal job of honoring the organization when they made that decision. And they posted it collectively, but then on the back side of it, we got an email saying we did not agree with the way that they did this. And I thought that was kind of odd, but I'm not on social media either. So I didn't see a lot of this until later on. So just to be clear, when the UK left, was that the reason they left? Did they leave because they didn't like the political direction, or was there something more to it, or? Essentially everything that we had been trying to communicate with, the dysfunction, the disorder, the lack of leadership, that was their decision, why they decided to leave. Okay. So for the record, at least, we could just say they split from the burn, and the reasons they have not fully disclosed, but it seems that it could just be part of the basics things that we're seeing right now. Could be underlying issues that have gone on here, likely were interactions there as well. So they decided to split. Now, there was a communication from Sean to the burn here that you didn't like, or you felt like was misrepresenting them. Is that right? Well, it was just like a question, like he the email that was sent was, we don't agree with their decision to do this, but we hope that they'll come back to be a part of, it again. It was just kind of an odd thing to add to everything, because when they said that they were leaving, they put out a statement. They put it out publicly. They said, we've come together with the Burn leadership and we're agreeing on this joint statement. And so on the back side of it, we were told differently. So that there was just a question about it. Like,
Gotcha.
Okay, if there was a joint statement, everybody agreed to it, they've decided this is what is best for their communities and their nation, then we just leave it at that.
But then Sean was like, well, we don't fully agree and we hope they come back. So it was clear that there was a real break there.
Right.
Gotcha.
So that was, for me, that was like what I was questioning Adam about. But it wasn't like an overt thing. I was more concerned about what we had going on, like what I had been feeling, and what I had asked Adam to listen to those videos with Tammy Woods. And I was like, our organization is really struggling right now. And so we've got to get back to the basics of why we're even doing this. Like, why do we even have an organization? And so then Adam pretty much just didn't, he was like, I agree with you, everything, Sean is feeling the same way as you. And, and I was like, great, this is great. Like, maybe we're going to like shift and actually turn a corner here. Like, maybe it's taken some time to get, where we are, but maybe we're all on the same page now. And so that was kind of my feeling. But then, Adam didn't respond to me after I asked him to watch the videos. Like, and I just started to have this growing feeling like, okay, it's time for me to actually go to Sean, because people have told me these stories specifically about him. It's not fair to Sean for me to go tell Adam without being, and I'm at a level where I am not uncomfortable in doing that. It's not like I felt like, I understand my role and my position. I know who I am, so I didn't feel like that I was going to get shot down or anything like that. And maybe that was naive of me, but I didn't feel that
But
way.
you're like, I'm the national communications director for one of his 501c3s that he started back in 2007 and is like the longest standing one. And I'm the national communications director, and people have brought me over 40 stories of mishandling or mistreatment, what you would now call, some of them would have been spiritual abuse, possibly. But you're like, okay, in any organization, if a communication, let's just call it the HR person, head of HR gets 40 stories about the CEO. Like, you don't just go and be like, well, just get over it. You're like, I should probably go talk to the CEO. I mean, that's the very basic way that we can look at this and go, you had over 40 stories in what you could call the HR department or the pastoral department. And you're like, I need to go directly to the guy that these are about. Okay, so you reach out in an email form first, asking for a meeting. Is that right?
I asked it for a meeting. And I will say this, Blaise, the 40 stories, I don't know that I would have said at that point in time that I was going to go to him with 3 specific examples. It wasn't like I hadn't formulated in my head that it was actually 40 stories.
I understand that. Yeah.
So I just want to be clear that
3 strong examples that were strong enough for you to go, I need to go talk to Sean about these, which is, I think, a good thing to do. I mean, Sean should be appreciative that there's somebody in his organization that would bring that to him. Every leader wants that type of person in their organization that can, help bring clarity if there's a problem. So that makes sense.
Yeah. So I emailed Sean, asked him for a meeting. And at the same time, they were setting up this global call that they wanted to have, it was, I don't even remember why we were doing it, except for it was time to rally everybody.
Was this, because I feel like I remember seeing him talk about this call publicly. Was this when months, I don't know, maybe within 6 to 9 months after the Bickle scandal and the prayer movement is falling apart, did he do like an announcement saying, we're going to talk about the prayer movement and the direction of the prayer movement? Is that what that was? I remember that call.
Yes, that was called Where Does the Prayer Movement Go From Here? That call was actually about a month before this call. And so
Okay.
I had already witnessed that and
Gotcha.
witnessed how he had addressed it. And the language in that call was, actually, we're going to go do this protest for something. I don't even remember what the protest was about. And by the way, don't be offended. And we just got to move on. So for me, like the whole example of mission over people was actually exemplified in that specific call of where does the prayer movement go from here? While it's sad that this happened with Mike Bickle, we just got to move on and not be offended. That was actually what was said.
Okay, so he's basically, and that's in essence, what I was getting from him online when all this was going down. I was watching some of his stuff, and I was going, okay, so he's just saying, like, if you're affected by Bickle and the fallout of this and the criminal activity of Bickle, then you're just offended. When you're going, well, wait, no, I actually feel like we need to pause. We need to push pause and really examine ourselves and examine what this movement is, examine what we're doing, examine the way we treat people, and see if we're in line with the heart of God. That's where you're at. You're not offended. You're actually concerned.
Absolutely. It was exactly where I was. And when I spoke to Adam, that's how you said it so nicely. I wish I had the language like you do.
It's all good. It's all good.
Adam and I had this very long conversation, and that's exactly what Adam and I had a conversation about. So in my mind, Adam's on the same page because he told me he was. Adam is my friend. I have no reason to distrust him. And then whenever I told him I'm going to go to Sean with my concerns, he was like, yeah, I think he's going to agree with you. He's feeling the same way, And so like I said, I didn't feel like I knew in my gut that there was more to it because you just know. Yeah. And I had seen enough. I've been in the movement for a long time, and I'm very heavily involved in the movement for a long time. I wasn't one of those fair weather friends. I was actually very involved from the moment I stepped foot into it. So the entire time, title, no title, that didn't matter to me. I'm a leader. So
in hindsight, you're probably looking back and going, well, Adam was just kind of playing his role. And I'm not saying he was lying to you. I'm just saying he was trying to kind of keep you at bay. Yeah, Sean feels the same way. Yes, we agree. But really, once it got down bare bones, it's like Sean was focused on something totally different, not on slowing things down and taking care of individuals.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I mean, I don't say this lightly. Adam was handling me. And if we're talking about hindsight, Adam was handling me. He would, any kind of questions, anytime that things were brought up, and that has taken me a very long time to actually understand that that's what he was doing. Because to me, Adam was my friend, and he was my leader, and I trusted him. And when he betrayed me, that was the hardest thing. Like, I expected what Sean did to me. I expected him to do that, but I didn't see it coming from Adam. And so that was the hardest. That's the hardest part of my story. And I don't talk about it that much because I'm still walking out the healing of the devastation of what that betrayal did to me personally.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that makes complete sense, and I almost wonder how long had Adam been with Sean?
Adam's been with Sean for a really long time. I would say they've been friends for 15 years, maybe longer. Adam he was the most recent board member. I want to say he became a board member in, it was when David Fritsch left and when Greg Barnes left. Adam became a board member during that time. I want to say it was around 2018, 2019. but I can't confirm that. That's just off the top of my head.
Gotcha. I just wonder how many other stories that Adam is involved with and basically kind of running front for Sean. In my mind, it reminds me a lot of like Mike Bickle with Stuart Greaves, connected for a very long time, 20 some odd years. And Stuart just handled every single allegation, every single issue. He just handled it. It seems that way. Okay. So get to the, so after,
sorry,
get there. No, you're great. You're great. No, you're great. So you sent an email to Adam and you decided you're going to go directly to Sean. So
I went to Sean. I also, at the same time, I sent an email to the board immediately after I got a response from Sean. Sean did respond, said he would meet with me. And then as soon as he said he would meet with me, I also, emailed the very same thing that I emailed to Sean. I emailed it to the entire board, and I requested a meeting with the board at some point after I spoke with Sean. So I basically did it all at the same time. I didn't want to try to stagger it. I felt like actually everybody needs to have a conversation. It's not just Sean. It's pointed at Sean. However, we all need to have a conversation. And up until this point, even though Adam and I had talked about it a lot over the course of 2 years, the whole entire board never met with me. Like, it was always just me and Adam. And he would always say, hey, let's get the whole board together when we're strategizing. Let's get everything, And so for me, I knew that I needed to make sure that I told Sean, I need to talk to you. But I also said, I'm talking to the board too. Like, I'm not going to play with this. We're going to do this. We're going to have a conversation. Because that's really all I was asking for. Let's have a conversation about this. So, so Sean responded, said he was going to meet with me. I asked if we could potentially do it before we did the global call. Because Adam had said, we're going to have this global call. Sean's feeling the same way that you're feeling. I wanted to approach it with Sean before he did the call so that he could understand my position and where my concerns were. And, then they all responded. Well, actually 2 of the board members didn't respond. Jamie didn't respond. And Sean didn't respond to the message I sent to the board. But Caleb wanted to know just like he was looking for logistics. And then Adam specifically responded to me and said, the board will speak to you after the call. We strongly encourage you to listen to the call first. That was Adam's response.
Yeah. Because basically, in essence, your concerns had been heard by Adam, and he probably carried them in a way that was not necessarily exactly what you were trying to say, but he carried those concerns to Sean in a way that's like, yeah, I'm handling it. And Sean's like, well, I'll handle it on the global call. And so when you're like, no, I'd really like to talk to Sean, he's like, well, just get on the global call and yeah. Anyway, I get it. It reminds me of like an MLM a little bit. Like, yeah, just get on the call and listen to what's said from the top and get in line with your person that you're directly under and just get back to work, is what it reminds me of. So, okay, so you get on that call and you hear what exactly?
Can I say I kind of probably blanked out, so I can't necessarily tell you everything that I heard on the call, except for he started talking about the UK, and it was supposed to be this open forum. It was supposed to be this. He even said, "Speak now, or forever hold your peace." There were people that had never even been a part of the burn before that were on that call. Like, it was so inappropriate, in my opinion, that I was just like, I was stunned because he started basically offended that the UK had left and I'm like, I thought we were already done with this. And then people started sending me text messages about things that he had written on social media about the UK. And I was like, what in the world is going on? And this is not repentance, because in my mind, I'm thinking we're all on the same page. We are supposed to be repenting. We are resetting order. We're holding accountability as leaders. That's where I'm going with this call that we're supposed to be doing. And that is not what I'm hearing at all. Actually, quite the opposite. And I'm just going to be totally transparent with you. I was pissed.
Yeah.
I was
sure.
I was just really upset. And it kind of shocked me. It took my breath away. And I remember talking to my mom, like I turned it off because I just couldn't take it. And I was like, this is so wrong. And especially my heart went out to the UK, because I was like, none of these people are even on the call to even defend themselves of what's being said.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it was wrapped in some sort of language that sounds good. Like if you were to go back and listen to it, but it was just so far from what I thought that the direction we were going. And so the next morning, everybody, of course I called my mom was with me that night, and she was like, you have got to cool down. And there was just something inside of me that was like, no, enough is enough. This is not okay. They've already been, dismissing me. They're not going to talk to me. Adam did talk to me, and it's not okay. And so I wrote an email, and I basically wrote this email that just said, hey, I am not trying to dishonor anybody, but I am in disagreement with how the UK situation was handled on our call last night.
You wrote it to the board?
I wrote it to the board and to the USA originally. Like I had titled it to the board and to the USA because I was the national director for USA, and that's what I was going to.
All right. So this is helpful because I was looking at your email, and I was looking at Sean's response, which Sean basically said that you were self-righteous, you were judgmental, he ripped into you in front of everybody. And he could say, well, you ripped into us in front of everybody, but really you were responding to a call that he said on this call, he was like mad about the UK situation. And he said, speak now or forever hold your peace, everybody. And you're like, okay, this does not seem like repentance. What is he doing? So now you spend an evening thinking over this. Next day you go, well, I'm the USA director, so I'm just going to respond, because he was asking for responses. He was asking for dialogue on the call. Let me just give my response here, since he was open to everybody responding on the call. And you said, here's how I feel. I don't feel like we were very repentant. I don't feel like we're taking this moment seriously and the scandals that are happening in the prayer movement. I don't feel like we're putting people over the mission. And so you put this email out to the USA. Does that mean it goes to the USA regional directors? Is it going to like 50 people, 25 people? Is it going to 200 people? Like, what is this email to?
Okay, so it was written for the USA, everybody in the USA. That was under my purview. When I sent it, in a split-second decision, I sent it to the entire organization.
Wow.
So instead of sending it I wrote it to them and to the board. But when I sent it, I call it my Peter moment. I kind of just said, like, I'm sending it to everyone.
Yeah.
And like I said, I don't know why I did that, but it was just, and so when he responded, he also responded to the entire organization.
Sure.
And then of course, as you said, he responded with, this is not the platform for you to use. You are out of line. You've gone rogue. I don't know who you say. I mean, you have the email. So, you have though, as the national director, the national communications director for the USA, right? Okay. So I had two titles. I was the USA national director, meaning that I focused primarily on the USA, like all of the burn furnaces in the USA. I managed the regional team, and I was in the process of building regional director team.
Mm-hmm.
But we had everybody leave. So I was in the process of rebuilding that team. And then the communications role that I played was actually supporting all the other nations, because there was nobody to do that. Nobody helped to teach the new Canadian national director how to create emails. I had access. I had 100% total access to the entire organization.
Gotcha. So you send this email to the entire United States burn organization. This would be like anybody that shows up to burn events in the USA, etc. Is that kind of how it goes?
So not everybody that shows up, but everybody that would direct a furnace, all the regional directors, and then beyond. So anybody that because our organization had our own email system. So
Understood.
my email was a burn email. So anybody that had a burn email that was active or that was named active within the organization received this email.
That makes sense. Okay, so you're sending it out to directors and anybody in the organization that had an email at burn247.org, basically. And you, in essence, tell them, I don't feel like what was communicated last night was really helpful, and this is some feedback. And so now, did you have an upcoming meeting with Sean when you sent this email? Or I know basically your appointment with Sean got like mixed around because of miscommunication. And so when you show up to the call, all this is said from Sean, and then you're going, well, I'm going to send an email. Were you going to meet with Sean privately, or like what was the situation there?
So, the night before, so the call was on a Tuesday night. Monday night, I realized my meeting with Sean was supposed to be Tuesday morning. So Tuesday morning before Tuesday night call, I was unable to get off work, and I felt like I don't need to be trying to work and have this very important conversation with Sean.
Yeah.
So, and I tried really hard to get off work because I knew I knew that he was making an exception for me. And so I wanted to try to honor that, but I was unable to do that. And so I sent him an email that on Monday night and said, I'm going to have to cancel. Can we reschedule to another day? I gave him some dates when I could do it. Well, when he responded to me the next morning and said, it's okay, I need to get the full scoop from Adam, and I'll reach out to you if I have questions.
Okay, so basically he's like, I'll hear from Adam what you have been saying to Adam, and if I need clarity, I'll reach out to you. Basically, I don't need to meet with you is kind of what he said.
That's exactly what he said.
And then that day or that night, they do the call. That's completely opposite of what you were wanting to communicate to Sean. And you're like, well, he didn't want to meet with me anyway, and I'm going to give my feedback to the call. That was a public call. I mean, I guess I'm looking for the if he's going to have a call in front of all of USA, whoever wants to get on, right? The night before.
It was all the nations. It was a whole.
Okay, and he's asking for an open dialogue there. So like technically somebody could have been like, I think this is terrible. They could have, but they probably would have shut him down in front of everybody. Pretty much what happened to you the next day on the email. You're like, okay, well, I'm going to give the feedback here. And I'm just thinking contextually, like, it makes sense that you would be like, well, I'm going to give some feedback here. And I think everybody needs to hear this. So you did. And then he shut you down and was like, actually, you're self-righteous and you don't need to process this with, you don't need to tell everybody your thoughts about what we're doing technically. And so then do you just get fired, or what happened after that?
So, I do want to say this, Blaise, like, I love how you're breaking this down. I think it's really important, especially for people that are trying to understand that weren't involved with it.
There's a lot of moving parts. Yeah.
There's a lot of moving parts here, and it can be confusing. And so I really appreciate that's how you're looking at it on a technical level and a contextual level. This was really serious to me. Like, yeah. I spent months, like, weeping and crying and repenting and not all the time, thank the Lord.
Sure.
He gave me some grace in it. But like when I met with Adam, like I was like, this is actually really serious, because this is really larger than just us issue. It's a body of Christ issue. And we as an organization should be engaging with what the Lord's doing here. This isn't just, like we have a few grievances here. Like this is happening all over the body.
Right.
And so that kind of a response in that moment of disregarding a whole nation of people and actually being so offended by their decision, and then turning around and telling us that you shouldn't be offended and you just move on. It's and leading people in that direction when you are an influential leader within the body, it was just wrong. And so I was very sober by this. Yeah. I was very sober by it. And I was like, I don't care if you recognize my title. I don't care if you, like, I am a leader in the body of Christ. I am a believer. And that was the approach I was taking. And in my mind, it didn't even dawn on me the platform that was being used, the email. I mean, like, I was in the emails all the time. That was never even something that I was like, oh, I am going to infiltrate the system and I'm going to send, and I think like that's actually when he responded, that's how he reacted to it, was you're infiltrating the system that we have. The reality of it is I was a part of the system. And I am being very convicted and sobered by how we as believers are acting. And that's really, really grievous to me. So I just want to say that, and that it's really important.
No, that's actually, it's very helpful for context for why you sent that email. And I'm really actually thinking of this in a Ezekiel 33 type of context or a moment, the watchman on the wall. When you see something, say something, and I look at Jonathan and Susie Lamb, and they were treated the same way. Like, well, look, in an organization, you just got to sit down and shut up. That's the way they were treated. Like, and so many people have said it. Jimmy Evans said it. Hey, she's the voice of God to you. Just sit down, shut up, do your job. And if you can't, then leave. And it's like, well, yeah, that might be sort of kind of how it is in a secular job, but you're literally working in a Christian ministry where there's ethics, and there's not just ethics, but there's righteousness and unrighteousness. And there's, there is a different protocol in some senses. And I think that, and I look at Jonathan Lamb and the way he spoke up about, and, his mother's situation, and of course their daughter's situation, and Susie. I'm saying this about you because I feel like it's a very similar type of situation. You going, you know what? There's been a whole nation of people being disregarded and maligned about the way they left this organization. And then there's multiple stories of spiritual abuse and mishandling of people. And now I'm not even going to get a voice when I was like the national director, and I'm being tossed to the side and saying like, oh, well, we'll just hear from Adam and I'll reach out if you need anything. And I feel like that was Sean's opportunity to slow down and hear from you. And this is a warning to pastors, to leaders. And because I know the reason I break it down the way I do, Christy, is because I know what people think when they hear these stories. I know how people sometimes go, oh, well, shouldn't have done that, or that's just petty, or like maybe some church hurts here. But it's when I'm looking at this as an organization, pastors need to figure out how to be pastoral to their people. We go, well, oh, they're just more vision driven. They're just CEO driven, vision driven. It's like, no, you have to learn how to hear the cries of your people. You have to hear your people. And that's what a shepherd after God's heart is. It's not just going, oh, we got to get to every single capital and pray before, the election happens, or otherwise something, who knows? But it's like, dude, like you're running an organization. These are real people. And you have somebody that's not just, Christy has been in an important role in the Burn organization for a couple years, and she wants an audience with you, and you can't even give an audience to her when she has grievances. Well, you deserve to be publicly outed with those grievances. If you're not going to take the time to hear from somebody that's literally a paid staff role that has grievances on behalf of others as well, it's like, it's mind-blowing the way this organization has been run. And so I really think that email and what happened there was I'm seeing something and I'm not going to get an opportunity to say it, so I'm going to say it. And so I commend you for putting that out there.
Thank you.
Sean's response, and then bring us to kind of where we are now.
I do want to make one statement before I say his response.
Sure.
I was never paid. I was never paid. There was this expectation that it was never even a question that was even brought up. That there was always something around finances. I didn't do it. I didn't even think about it, even the thought to even ask for it. Mm-hmm. Other people that had filled the same position that I had, there were previous people that filled the same role that weren't paid. They had to raise their own support. There was only really one paid position in our organization up until that point, and that was an admin role that were paid a small stipend every month. But we didn't even have a person to do an admin role. I actually did both, along with Richie. So, but it was never even a question to be paid. And I didn't even think to ask for it, because there was this culture of you're doing it for the Lord, you're serving the Lord. And I found out later at some point that actually Sean was being paid from the burn.
Really?
Yeah. I found, yes, he was being paid a couple of $1,000s a month. So back whenever I had asked for the $250 for a tent, and I was told the burn doesn't have any money, Sean was being paid every month, a monthly stipend.
Interesting.
So he was the only person that was paid during this time. And to my knowledge, and this may not, be accurate. Richie may be able to have a little bit more insight on this, but to my knowledge, with some of the people that I've spoken to, the only other person that's ever been paid within the burn organization is the person who filled that admin role in previous years.
Gotcha. Interesting. Okay.
So
I appreciate it. No, that's a good clarifier. Okay. But you were a pretty major role as far as reorganization of the USA regions. I mean, it's a pretty major role. All I can think of, though, honestly, with all this, Christy, and I get it. If you're kind of like Sean seems to be the type that's very entrepreneurial or driven, high visionary, and just go. And so that type of person, if you establish multiple 501c3s, multiple ministries, then the one that would, quote, have the heat on it at the time of the election through 2024 would be, and COVID would be, let us worship. It's like, well, this is where God's moving. Look at what's happening. We got to go out there. We got to worship, even though they're telling us not to. And I mean, I have no qualms with that. I thought at the time, I was like, that's cool. But to leave then you've got this thing called the burn that established everything that you are and everything that you're doing. And you got all these real live people that are volunteers and working for you. Like, it's not like, obviously at the local level, people are doing things, but you're talking about regional and the USA director, and you're going, I need a meeting to deal with the issues of this organization that you set up, and you left this guy, Adam, to kind of handle us, but we have real issues and I need to talk to you. And he's like, well, Adam will just tell me what's going on. And it's just bad stewardship in my mind. It's just bad leadership. And I wish for somebody like Sean, instead of going, oh, these people were just disgruntled volunteers who I don't even really know, that had, quote, moral issues. I don't know what he's talking about with that.
And a lot of them are from 15 years ago, 12 years ago, 10 years ago. A few of them I've only met one time.
It's just insane. But I wish somebody like Sean would just go, man, this is really tough to hear and tough to read, and I should have done things differently. Sometimes that's all sometimes people need. And I'm not going to speak on your behalf and say, oh, that would make everything right, because it wouldn't, but it would go a long way. If people would just go, man, you know what? When I look back at how that was handled, I really didn't handle them well. Christy, I'd like to talk to you. Has he reached out to you since the website came up?
No, he has not. He just continued to degrade me to people. I mean, other people have reached out to him, Jesse Westwood being one of them. Whenever Jesse saw my video that came out in January of this year, and he has continued to discredit me, to lash out to other people about me, and that is actually what he has done with so many other people. As soon as there is this break, or they decide to leave, or he pushes them out, or whatever, on all levels. So leadership roles, all levels. It's kind of like what he said to Liam, where it was like, well, he told other people, well, Liam's gone woke. He's always made those comments about anybody that he felt now are disloyal to him. And he has done that very same thing, like what he did to us in the video that he recently released, saying that we were disgruntled former employees or whatever he said. And he has used those very same tactics to so many people, to varying degrees, where he actually is slandering people by saying that he released them for moral reasons. He has slandered people by saying they're no longer Christian. He has slandered people by saying they're woke, leftist, whatever. He has slandered people by saying they were girls gone wild and they didn't deserve to be on the mission field. He has said these things.
Yeah, that's wild. That's crazy, because I've watched the interviews, and I know Jesse, and I mean, Jesse's not woke. I mean, like, Jesse's like, I've talked to you guys. I've watched the interview with Peter and his wife, and just the way that they were treated by Sean, and I've talked to Richie over the phone, and we'll probably be talking to him soon. Like, it's just crazy to kind of see somebody spin out of control a little bit when they, like, I just got to say this. I mean, for all the viewers, people go, well, people that don't do the digging and don't take the time to actually watch the videos or listen to the stories, like, they will just take this and go, somebody's coming against Sean. It's the woke agenda coming against Sean because Sean's praying for the president and praying for our nation and et cetera, and praying for Israel. And that's the exact same thing that happened with IHOP Kansas City. Just FYI, it's the same tactic, okay? When IHOP Kansas City happened and Mike Bickle was starting to get exposed, everybody came out swinging and said, this is because October 7th. This is why this has happened, is because of October 7th, and IHOP Kansas City prays for Israel. This is the devil's tactic to take down one of the biggest prayer leaders in the world that prays for Israel, and to take down the prayer movement, and then that way Israel, this will happen, and da-da-da-da-da. It's like, do we really think, and sadly we do, but do we really think that these guys are the pinnacle of history? They're the pinnacle of what God wants to do in the United States of America. And without Mike Bickle, then this won't happen in Israel and the world stage and the book of... It's like, are you kidding me? Like, God is that small? Jesus Christ has no ability to lead his church anymore because Sean Feucht is being outed for mishandling of finances, and possibly worse than just some mishandling. I mean, allegedly it could be worse than that, but also the mishandling and mistreatment of people that he's led for years. Like, we think that that's going to cause a problem in the United States because, it's just, does that make sense what I'm saying? It's just kind of mind-blowing the way that we treat these figures. And again, I think it's just the same tactic of going, and I don't think Sean is Mike Bickle. I'm not saying that. Mike had, like, on the SA problem, that is for years, decades. For Sean, it seems to be about a decade and a half of people mistreatment. of mistreatment of people and humans. I was reached out to by a friend actually last year when he's like, "Oh, I saw you called out Sean Feucht. I'm glad you did that. I went to school with Sean Feucht. He needs to be called out," and it's just interesting if you develop patterns of the way that you treat people behind the stage. It doesn't matter if miracles are happening and people are getting saved when you're on the stage. It's the way you treat your drummer. It's the way you treat your guitarist. It's the way you treat your merch girl. It's the way you treat these people that actually says way more about you. And that's the fruit of your ministry, not the people getting saved. God can use anybody who preaches the gospel to get people saved. But it's the way you treat people. That's the fruit of your ministry. That's the fruit of your life. And so, Christy, we're coming up on an hour and a half. I want you to kind of just take us into the next kind of phase of where you see this going. What do you see happening? I know you've had even a rough day because you've had lots of new stories coming to you. So just share as much or as little, or if there's any stories that you even feel like you have liberty to share that people aren't ready to share with their own, name out there, but you feel like they've given you the liberty to. I just want to let you share anything you want to kind of take us out here in the next 10 minutes.
Yeah, thank you so much. Wow, there's been so much that's happened, and I think another huge thing is that I want to touch on is the level of integrity and the lack of integrity that Sean walks in. He exaggerates pretty much every time he gets online. He lies extensively and significantly. Even so much as in the last couple of weeks, there are lies that he has said, even since we went live with the website, not about us, but lies about other things that he's tried to move on, because he's trying to move on from this situation, the allegations and everything. Like, that's his method, is just try to discredit and then move on.
And then put enough content out there that people will ignore. Yeah.
That it gets buried. And that
Can
was
you give me an
of
example of a lie that you've noticed, or is there something specific you could?
I can give you a lot of examples. I don't want to use other people's examples because some of these stories have not come out.
It could put them in a target, basically. Yeah, I understand that. I understand that.
And I will just say that it is incessant, and he does it with clear eyes. I mean, I've even watched him in the last couple months, because we've spent a lot of time praying for him and his family. And I've even watched him, and I watched him share a whole story asking for prayer for traveling and sort of thing. And then I found out later that everything that he was talking about was fabricated. And so even, like I said, I myself watched him online and was like, wow, maybe there's something that is getting to him. It's like he lies and doesn't even realize that he's lying. It is wow. That it is to that level and that degree. And I do not say this lightly at all. I really don't. So as far as where this is going, the whole decision to do the website was really because there has just been story after story after story after story that has come to me. I reached out to so many people, Blaise. I could give you a list. I've reached out to leaders within the body. The overwhelming majority of people that I reached out to was not surprised that this was being brought to them. And then I was also very much dismissed, because it's like, yeah, that's just how he is. It's almost like, I call it hidden in plain sight. He has created this culture around him that this is who he is, and that it's normalized behavior. And so for me, every time I knocked on somebody's door, I asked somebody to help, because to me, I'm like, I don't have a platform. I don't want one. I don't know how to deal with this. Yeah. I don't know how to deal with it, but I just know that I have to. If nobody else is going to do it, then I'm just going to do it to the best of my ability. But the Lord just really brought together a team of people that are incredible to help with the research of the financials. I had no idea about the financials, but every time I would go to somebody, they would be like, look at the financials. Can you dig into the money? Basically putting it back on me to do an investigation. And I'm like, you guys, I am hurting.
Yeah.
I am trying to heal. Something needs to be done. I am not capable of doing it, but the Lord just continued. I asked him so many times to release me from this. And he just has been so kind and generous and gracious and merciful and bringing those that I needed to support me through it. And we now have a team of people. We have people that have said, I'm going to speak out. I'm going to stand up and I'm going to say something. And the whole idea behind the website was to allow people that opportunity. It was not presented to us in the burn as an opportunity to be able to even talk about this stuff. And I think just globally in the body of Christ that we have to begin to talk about this stuff with our leaders. We have to be able to feel that it's a safe place to be able to do that. And our culture is not like that. And so, and then the website really for me was about, there has to be a place that can hold everything because there's so many pieces. Sean has 4 organizations. There is so many people that have been affected by him in every single one of them. And he moves at such a fast pace and people have been so wounded and so hurt. There are people out there that I've talked to that don't want to have anything to do with this because it's still so hard for them. And I wanted the website to be a place that could hold the information and that it could be a place where the truth can be released, and that in wherever people are in the process, that they could say it how they want to say it, and that we would hold their arms up in that place. And so that was, and that if a news story comes out, like there's this girl, Cassandra, who she put a video out on her own. She was the Let Us Worship merch person. I didn't even know who she was. She put it out on her own. And I want the website to be able to support her and put her story on ours so that whenever another Cassandra comes out and says, you know what, I'm actually going to tell my story, that it's there so that you can see the patterns. Because the most difficult thing for me over the last year as I've been walking this out is that it's continuing to happen currently.
Yeah.
And that people are continuing to be abused. And it's just been the cry of my heart, asking the Lord, like, for this to just stop. And I know, and I'm just gonna, I don't know what it's gonna end up looking like, Blaise. I didn't expect to be talking to you on a podcast. Sure. I mean, I didn't expect for there to be all these articles written about it within 12 hours that we released the website on nobody's platform. We just literally hit publish and then shared it with our friends. So I know that the Lord is actually so aware of every single story. He is so aware of every single person, and he is a God of justice. He is a God of love. He cares about his kids, and I want to partner with whatever he wants this to look like in the future.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good, Christy, and we just so appreciate you coming on and telling your story. Obviously, we lost Christina during this time because two of our kids, she just had to get them back down for bed. They would not go back to bed without her. So I know she wanted to be here for this, but you did such a great job just sharing your story. And I really think this is just a moment for people that are coming across this to go to the website, look at some of this stuff for yourself. The website is, tell us the website exactly. Remind us.
It's truthandfreedomstories.com.
Truthandfreedomstories.com. So go to the website and look. These things, when I was talking to Jesse, he said, there's so many different stories. There's so many puzzle pieces. And I think, this is not like Mike Bickle, Tammy Woods type of story to where you just go, or Robert Morris, Cindy Clemenshire, where you just go, boom, see, look, this is more complex in the sense that, no, it's not, thank God it's not essay, but the reality is that, we've been covering the book Something's Not Right by Wade Mullen. We've been reading through that book on our channel just to educate people about the layers of spiritual abuse and the tactics. And it's just so mind-blowing to watch the way that people utilize the same tactics of denial, and then they make excuses, and then they minimize or compare. There's just all these different types of tactics that are used. And when I saw Sean come on, once he finally had to address this website, and I saw the way he did it, I just went, no, you got to be kidding me. Like, I don't know him. I haven't interacted with him. I interacted with him once in 2007, many, many years ago, but I don't know him in that way. So for some of y'all that are close to him, you're like, well, yeah, we expected this. But for me, from an outsider, I'm like, I've always hoped for the best. Even when I did 2 videos on Sean, calling him out for his light stance on Mike Bickle. And, I still always hoped for the best, that maybe he was somebody that had the ability to listen and hear. But the further we get into this and watching him respond to you guys, I went, that's not even the way a genuine believer responds to a genuine believer with concern. Because the problem is that you tried Matthew 18. You literally tried Matthew 18 with Sean, and he put up a wall with this guy, Adam, and thought he could handle you. And, churches they got to realize that this game can't be played anymore. The pastors that are at the top, they have to be accessible. The book of Timothy, Paul says to Timothy, watch your life and your doctrine and persevere in them so that you'll be saved and those that hear you would be saved. Well, I'm going to say that you can't watch the life of a leader. Like in Acts chapter 20, Paul said to the Ephesians, he said, you saw the way I lived among you for 3 years. You saw the way I lived among you. Well, guys, you can't keep up. If you have a leader at the speed of Sean, you can't actually watch his life, and he doesn't let you watch his life because he keeps it so fast and he just burns bridges left and right, it seems. And so that's a red flag. That is a red flag. And if the board's not going to hold him accountable, then it goes to, okay, well, let's go public with these stories so that people can see where they're sowing their finances. Gosh, you got a guy putting his jersey online on eBay for a couple $100 because he led worship in this jersey and puts it online on eBay and says, I wore this. You can buy it for $200. I remember seeing that and going, ew, I don't like that, there's something strange there. So this is just a big red flag and a waving of the red flag, but because in some ways you'd hope that Sean would listen and repent, but I don't even know if that's a thing right now. Really now it's just going to the body of Christ, hey, just out there, everybody pay attention. I got friends that had, pastors out in different areas of the country that have had Sean out to their church even just recently, and I know they're going to see this, and I think it's helpful. Everybody's got to see and just go, okay, and then address it with him, and then see how he responds, because likely what he would do is go, oh yeah, they're just a bunch of disgruntled, and if that's the response, you got a gaslighter. You got a problem on your hands. So that's my final little rant here. But I think we're gonna talk to Richie pretty soon, and we'll probably talk to Jesse again just about his story with Sean. And I have a feeling this is just the beginning of all this. And we hope for reconciliation and we hope for repentance. But we really, at this point, are trying to rescue sheep from the mouths of wolves. We're trying to rescue people from putting themselves in a position where they get taken advantage of at this point. And I see your heart in that. And I know you're not the type of person to come out on a ton of podcasts and stuff. So I just appreciate you doing this. And any final words that you have?
No, I think you did a great job there, Blaise. And I do want to say thank you for your part in this, yours and Christina's. I mean, you actually were you guys shared my video, because whenever I put it out there, it was like, here it is. And we had like 8 people on our channel or whatever. I didn't even really know how to work the channel.
Yeah.
But I said, this is what we're doing, because that's what we're supposed to do. And I just want to say thank you for how you guys have approached these types of things. And I know it's hard whenever you're in the position that you're in to be able to really express your heart too, and allowing other people to share their stories and share what it is, and then bring it around to actually what the Bible says, and actually what we should be doing as believers, and holding to a level of accountability. And I'm really appreciative of that, because I know you guys take a lot of flack for it too. And so I just want to say thank you. And also just for creating a safe place, because this isn't my thing, and it isn't something that I really am super excited. I understand why it's necessary to do this type of stuff. But you know, thank you for just letting me feel comfortable to be able to share with you guys.
For sure.
And so I just really appreciate that.
For sure. Well, if you're out there, guys, and you have, you know, I hate that it's come to this, but if you're out there and you have a story with Sean or with the organization, then go to truthandfreedomstories.com, and there's like an opt-in. Is that right? Or there's like a form. So just go there, and you can share your story anonymously, or you can share it. Obviously, these stories they're going to the moderators, and they're not just, you guys aren't just posting every single story or things like that, but you can get in contact with people that you know will understand. And that's what most people need, is just an ear. And not everybody that is a whistleblower is supposed to whistleblow. Some people are just supposed to come close to other whistleblowers and go, how can I get my heart healed? Because I thought it was all my fault, and I thought I was crazy for a while. And so reach out to Christy and go to the website, and I think that would be super helpful. Okay, everybody. Well, thanks for tuning into this one, and we'll come back with more on this story soon. And for now, God bless you guys, and thanks, Christy, for coming on the show. Take care.
Wake up and win. Wake up and win. Wake up and win. Wake up and win. Wake up.